Now the prisoner came to senses. He opened his eyes, blue eyes, looked all afraid, quite natural, just as when we find ourselves at some strange place, surrounded by strange people, like who am I, where am I, what I am doing here, something like that. So he was also afraid. And then Hannah, Hannah felt compelled to apologize. The servants had already refused to do anything for that man, and so Hannah had to do whatever she could do. She actually fed him and all. So she said, "Don't be afraid." Now he was shocked. He said, How come you speak English?" So Hannah said, "I've been a long time in America. That's why I know." And she then actually tried to sympathize with him. She said that you will recover soon, soon you will be okay, and all that. Okay, now on the third day, Sadao went to see him, went to his room, and when he entered, he saw what the man was trying to get out of his bed. And his face was bloodless with exertion, just as when you exert, the skin goes all white. So similarly, his face was all white, bloodless with exertion, and Sadao got angry with him that, "What are you doing? Do you want to die? You will die if you do this sort of thing." Thou just shouted at him, and then he just forcefully made him lie down there. Then he examined him and then covered him with the quilt. The man asked, all say very cool, he asked, "What are you going to do with me? Are you going to hand me over to the police?" Sadao didn't say anything. He was simply checking him and then covering with quilt and all. And then Sadao replied. He said, "See, you are my enemy, and I ought to hand you over to the police." Now, he was trying to say something, but Sadao just paused him with a gesture of his hand, and he said, "No, don't tell me even your name until I ask." Okay. Now Hannah was waiting for Sadao outside. Hannah said that, "Sadao, the servants feel that they can't stay here if we shelter this man here." That the servants were not willing. The reason was what? That he was their enemy, an American, and to shelter an enemy was going against the nation. It was anti-patriotic, so they were not willing. So Hannah said that this man, the servants feel that they cannot stay here if we shelter this man here, and they think that we have been so long in America that we have forgotten to think of our own country first. They think we like Americans. So this was what the servants thought, that their masters, as they had been America, they think of America, they like Americans and all that. So thou said, "But it's not true." Now, who would actually argue with those servants? Who would tell them? So now what everything, the household dragged on as usual. The servants grew more watchful. They were very careful. Their courtesy was as usual as it had been. But yes, the warmth was not there. They became cold upon the pair for whom they were hired. Now it means what? Now that affection was not there. That's sincerity. They did it as their work, as their job. Okay, they finished their work, but that love and affection which used to be there, the care which used to be there, was not there now. So now we have the talk between the cook and the gardener. So they were talking. What? They were saying that our old master's son, who? The gardener. Our old master's son knows very well that what he ought to do. So this gardener had made one of the most beautiful garden that the country has had for his father. He was a good gardener, and one of the finest gardens he has made for his father. And he took every care that its surface, that velvet surface, should not be marred, should not be spoiled or ruined, even by a leaf or a prick, a thorn. He would take every care. And he said that why? Why didn't he let him bleed when he was so near dying? He was dying, so he should have allowed him to die. Why did he save him? So the cook, that our master is so proud of his skill of saving lives that he saves any life. That whether enemy or friend, doesn't matter, he saves any life. She had a fowl in her hand. What she did? Split its neck. The blood was allowed to go into the roots of wisteria vine. The blood is the finest of fertilizers, and the gardener definitely would not allow her to waste even a single drop. So it's not a kind of, just as I told you in the beginning, some descriptive, lots of descriptions are given, and it's just an example. Now what? The servants actually, they never tried to hide their feelings from their masters. When Hannah was arranging the day's flowers at the window, she heard the servants talking about all that, and they never tried to hide. They knowingly, deliberately, they spoke about it so that she would take an action or do something about the prisoner. And Hannah knew they were right, but there was something about her that she didn't know herself. It was like beyond her. It was not the sentimental liking of the prisoner. She didn't like the prisoner at all, or she didn't develop any sentiments for the prisoner at all. She only thought of him as a prisoner, only a prisoner, just that, nothing more than that. And she didn't like him even the day when he introduced himself saying that my name is Tom, and she wanted to talk, but she stopped it there and then. Simply met that little bow of hers, just as all the Japanese do, simply bowing like this. So she did that, and the matter closed there, and she could see the hurt in his eyes. The man was hurt that she didn't talk to him. She didn't proceed with the talk, so he was hurt. But how could she go on with that? The man was a real burden for them. It was really risky. It could risk their lives even. That risk was involved. And as for Sadao, he checked the state of the wound daily. And now even the last stitches were pulled out. Yes, all the stitches were pulled out. So he would be okay within a fortnight. That is 2 weeks period, almost 15 days or so. So it would be okay. So he went to his office. An office was there in the garden. So he went there and typed a letter, carefully typed a letter to the chief of the police. And what was there in that letter, what he wrote there? So it was on the 21st day of February, man, a prisoner of war, washed up ashore in front of my house. And so far he typed, and then what he did, took that paper and just put it into a secret drawer. And on the 7th day after that, 2 things happened. Now, it's quite important to know that which were the 2 things. So let's write a question on that. Which 2 things did happen on the 7th day after the prisoners stitches were pulled out. Which 2 things? So 2 things have clearly mentioned here. Actually what happened, When Hannah got up in the morning, what was the first thing actually? The servants left altogether. Their belongings tied in a large cotton handkerchief. When Hannah got up in the morning, she saw nothing was done, the food not prepared, the house not cleaned, and she understood what it meant. So, when the servants came to her, she paid them and thanked them for whatever they had done. The cook and the gardener were there since Sadao had been a boy. It means since his childhood they were there. They were all grieving, they were all crying. Hannah too was sorry, but her pride as a mistress didn't allow to show that. She was, of course, disappointed by all that, but how could a mistress behave like that in front of the servants? She controlled her feelings. She didn't do any such thing. And the servants, they were crying. And Yumi, you know what? Yumi just came running back after she had gone. She said that actually she was quite attached to the children there. And she said, if the baby misses me tonight, you send for me, you know where I'm going. So her house was there nearby, and she was saying that if something like that happens, she could come back. But Hannah knew she was not going to do any such thing. She just handled or took care of the matters of the kitchen. Sadao took care of the children, and everything went on in that way. Now, when Hannah went to feed him and just serve him breakfast and all. And when she returned, Hannah said to Sadao, she was really quite frustrated. Hannah said, why is it? Why is it we can't see anything clearly? Even the servants see more clearly than we do. Why are we so different from other Japanese? She was actually fed up with that man, fed up with serving him, fed up with thinking about the risk involved. So Sadao didn't answer. Sadao didn't say anything. What he did, he went to his room and he said, now you can stand on your feet 5 minutes at a time. And tomorrow you can double the time, he said. The man was afraid. It meant what? It meant that he wanted him to just go out of his house. Sadao himself said that it is well that you recover soon. Now, he could see the fear on his face, but he controlled and managed and said, Doctor, I want to thank you for having saved my life. So Sadao responded, don't thank me too early. Of course, it was perhaps too early because why did he say so? Because Sadao intended to hand him over to the police. That was the idea, and he was thanking for saving his life. So Sadao, that's why I said, don't thank me too early. Perhaps he will repent later that why I thanked him, that he handed me over to the police. So he could see the fear on his face, fear as unmistakable as an animal. Just as when you see the fear-stricken animals, their ears all taut like this, so all alert. So just like that. And Sadao noticed the scar, but he didn't ask anything about the scar. Now the second thing, in the afternoon, the second thing happened. Hannah was hard on her unaccustomed labor. Why unaccustomed? Because she was not habitual to do that. They had servants to do all those household works. So now she had to do. So what happened? A messenger came in uniform. Hannah was afraid. She thought that he was there to arrest Sadao. She went rushing to Sadao, and when she turned, the man was there. He had followed Hannah and was standing now. So Hannah pointed out. And Sadao, what? When he saw the uniform, he rose, he got up. And the messenger said, you are to come to the palace. The old general is in pain again. Now, listening to that, Hannah felt all relaxed. And in that, when when she felt relieved, in that feeling, what happened, it just came out. Oh, is that all? So out of relief, actually, this came out of her mouth. Is that all? So he said, all? Is it not enough? What else you want? You want him to die? Something like that. So that kind of, we can say, reactions. So Hannah then apologized. No, sorry, that I didn't mean that and all. Hannah apologized, and then when Sadao was to go, before going, he came to Hannah. Hannah was exhausted, not because of work, but because of fear. Hannah said, I thought that they had come to arrest you. And Sadao said, I must do something for your sake. I must get rid of this man for your sake. So yes, Sadao too was fed up, and Hannah was really extremely fed up, and now Sadao wanted to do something. He had decided to do something to get rid of that man, that prisoner. Now Sadao went to the general and he reported the whole matter. Now what he reported and how much he reported is not given, but yes, we can conclude from the given things that he reported the matter to the general. Now general said, yes, I can understand. I can understand because I once took a degree in Princeton, so few Japanese have. Means he was trying to say, like Sadao, he also had been in America, and so he can understand his feelings. So Sadao said, I care nothing for him, Your Excellency. He is my enemy. But after having operated upon him with such success, now what he was trying to say, that he operated him with success, or he operated him successfully, and just after saving his life, how to kill him at once. That's what perhaps he was trying to say. So the general said, oh, that makes me feel you all the more indispensable for me. Indispensable, that means unavoidable. So what he was trying to say, oh, it means you have become all the more unavoidable for me. Why inevitable for me? Why saying so? He said that then you save any life, so you will definitely save my life. And you say that I can stand, or I can stand one more such attack. He said, yes, just one, because after that you won't require any. Just on a lighter note. So he said, then I can allow nothing to happen to you. Suppose I have to have an operation and you were condemned to death, then who would save my life? So he said, there are other surgeons, Your Excellency. So this general said, none I trust. No, I trust no one. The best ones are German trained, and they'll consider the operation successful even if I died. Now, what does he mean by this? So right in the beginning, I mentioned the characteristics of different countries. So the Germans, why is saying so? Because Germans are said to be very, very professional. They keep all sentiments and emotions aside. And he was who the general was trying to say that they will kill me and they will say that we did our job properly. Now, if he died, that it has nothing to do with us. So that's why he said that I don't trust. And it's a pity. He said, it's a pity, Sadao, that we cannot combine American sentimentality and German ruthlessness. Because if that would happen, I could be sure that you could hand your prisoner over for execution, and yet I could be sure that you would not kill me when I would be unconscious. So he wanted him to combine the two elements. He said that, Sadao, couldn't you combine these two foreign elements? Now, Sadao said, I'll try for your sake, I'll try, Your Excellency. Now, the question here is, we have an important question here, and that is, which two foreign elements did Sadao, general, not Sadao, did the general want Sadao to combine within him why? So which two foreign elements? American sentimentality and German ruthlessness. And what was the reason? That if he had these two qualities, then he could use them as and when required. That means he could be ruthless or cruel or callous, unfeeling to the enemies, and he could be sentimental to his friends like general. So that's what he wanted from him. So he said, I'll try. So what, the general said, so I had rather not be the test case. See, don't experiment. So repeated victories in the South Pacific had brought lots of responsibilities upon his shoulders. So actually he had got lots of victories, and because of all those victories, there were lots of responsibilities upon him. And he said, it's unfortunate, it's unfortunate that this man should have washed up in front of your house. See, already there are lots of problems, and with that, this one again, this one also. So he said, I thought so, Your Excellency. Now, General had an idea. He said that it would be better if this man is killed, not by you, but someone else who doesn't know him. And he said, I have my private assassins, murderers, and I'll send them tonight, or better any other night, 2 of them. You only have to keep the outer partition of that man's room open. And these are warm days. And what would be more natural than keeping the partition open? So he said, they are so left open. Means what he was trying to say, that you just keep the partition open, those murderers would naturally come and would naturally kill him and naturally go away. So that's what he was trying to say. And so we have a question on this. Yes. And the question is, what was the general's idea of getting rid of the prisoner? So what was the general's idea of getting rid of the prisoner? Answer is very much clear. 2 assassins who would kill him. And he said, what? That they are very perfect assassins. They make no noise. And they know the trick of inward bleeding. Something like just breaking the neck or something like that. And he said, if you like, they would remove the body as well. What else he could require them? What more? It was like icing on the cake. Sadao at once agreed. He said that would be best. And then it was all done. Sadao went back home, thinking that he would not tell Hana anything about the assassins at home, otherwise she would be afraid. And he thought that about the general having those assassins. He was thinking that perhaps these people like general should have assassins. Otherwise, how would they control if the people rebelled? So these kinds of people are necessary perhaps. And Sadao went to that person's room thinking that only reason should rule his mind, no sentiments and no emotions. Should be very much logical, reasonable, no emotions, no sentiments. And when he opened the door, what he saw, that the man was trying to go out into the garden. When Sadao saw this, he got at once angry and he said, "What? Who gave you permission to get out of your bed?" And he was very cool and cheerful. He said, gay, cheerful. Gay, gay means cheerful, and that sense it has been used. So he said, "See, I'm not used to wait for permissions." And then actually he had some problem, some cramp. He said, "Will the muscles on this side be always stiff?" So there is some stiffness and cramp. So Sadao. Now see, Sadao had thought that no emotions, no sentiments, only reason. But when he heard, when he stated, when he said that stiffness is there, he forgot everything. What he did, he just pulled up his shirt and he said, "I thought I have provided against that, means I have managed for this as well, I thought. But now," he said, "okay, massage may do it if exercise doesn't." So he said, "I'm not bothered about this." Who? The prisoner. "I'm not bothered about this." Say, "Doctor, I've got to say something to you. I want to say something to you." "What?" "That I haven't been alive if I hadn't met a Jap like you." Japanese. Sadao didn't say anything. He was trying to thank. Sadao didn't say anything. Then he again, "There wouldn't have been any war if all the Japs were like you." Sadao simply asked him to lie down and sleep. And Sadao, he asked him to lie down and sleep, but Sadao couldn't sleep that night. And how could he? Actually, some guests were about to come. Yes, assassins. And time and time again he walked that night. What was the reason? He would think that as if he had heard some twig broken, some rustling of footsteps, some stone displaced, something like that. And he would think that yes, something is being carried, the body is being carried. So that kind of feeling he had. And next morning, he made an excuse to go straight into that prisoner's room. And he thought if the man were gone, then he would tell Hana everything about that it was general's instruction about this. So he was thinking like that. But when he opened the door, the man was lying there. His shaggy head was there on the pillow. And he was having a good sleep. He could hear the sound of his breathing. So he went to Hana and said, "He is well. He is so well to sleep like that." Hana was worried. Hana said, "What shall we do with him?" He said, "I'll decide. I must decide in a day or two." Now, Sadao had already decided, but he hadn't tell anything Hana about that. So, okay, the first night was useless, nothing happened. Now he thought, okay, the next night must be the night. He waited. In the night, there was the wind blowing and he could hear the sound of rustling partition. So Hana said, "Ought we not to go and close that room's partition?" Now Sadao protested. Of course, he himself knowingly had left that open and Hana didn't know this. So he said, "The man is able to do that himself now. He could do that. So we don't have to." Okay. Next morning, he again went into his room and he saw that the man was still there. No, what a man he was. Okay, he thought now, next night, one more. Let's see, one more. Third night must be the night. Now the wind gave way to steady drizzle. He could hear the raindrops falling from the eaves. And then there was a sudden crashing sound. Hana leapt up. But then Sadao just caught her hand and he said, "Don't go, don't go." Hana wanted to go and see what it was, but he just got hold of her hand and said, "Don't go, don't go." That Hana felt infected by that fear. And then both of them crawled back into the bed, the baby between them. Now, next morning, Sadao again went into his room and the man was again there. Now, as I said, what a man, as if had some, pact or agreement with the god of death, that even after assigning two men to kill that prisoner, he was not getting killed. What a man he was. First, he got saved from the bullet. Second, by the sea. Third, when he operated, and now when he had assigned two men, even after that, he was not getting killed. So that was really shocking. And the man actually had asked for some razor and he had shaved and there was some faint color, a glow on his face. And he said, I am well. The man was well, but of course Sadao was not at all well. Sadao said, you are so well that if I give you a boat with some food and extra clothing, then you can row that boat over to the nearby island and nobody lives there and it's not worth fortifying because it's very close to the coast. So it's not worth fortifying, or it's not fortified actually, means it's not, there is no patrolling or there is no policing or such thing, and nobody lives there because it is submerged in the storms. So okay, and he said you only have to wait for the Korean fishing boat, and it passes close to the coast because water is many fathoms deep there. So you only have to wait for the Korean fishing boat. When it passes by, you can also. Now, he was not at all willing. Perhaps he said, do I have to? And it suggested that he was not at all willing, that free food, free shelter, full protection. So who would, because going out of the house would be like the bullet was waiting for him and he could be killed. So that was the reason. So here we have a question on this and we must discuss that. What was Sadao's idea of getting rid of the prisoner? So what was Sadao's idea of getting rid of the prisoner? And we have these things, these points here. What? Boat with food and extra clothing, and he just have to take that boat to the nearby island, just have to wait for the Korean fishing boat, and then he could be safe. The prisoner agreed to what Sadao said, and he had of course no other option. Now next day, Sadao didn't see the prisoner until evening. All day he had been busy arranging all the things like food and bottled water, and he also arranged a boat. He just carried a stout boat, a big boat, to the shore, and apart from that, he also bought 2 quilts from the pawn shop from where you can have things, or you can hire things on, or you can have things on rent. So he did that, and then he tied the boat to a post because the tide was very high waves were there and the boat could just sail away. So to check that, he did that, and after that, and he did this without using any flashlight because that could be suspected. He went home after all that without giving Hana any clue that what he had been doing all during the day. And Hannah actually served him food. She just stood there by his side. Though she was educated and modern, still she followed the custom. It has been shown like that. And Hannah said Yumi had been here tonight and she was crying over the baby, that she misses him so. So Sadao said, the servants will come back as soon as this man is gone. He was sure that because the servants, they loved the family and the family loved the servants. So they were like part of the family. So he said the only reason was that prisoner. Okay. Now what? In the night, Sadao went to his room. He checked his temperature, state of wound, pulse, all that. Only the heartbeat was high, and that was perhaps because of the excitement that he was going safely from there. So he had that excitement. And that scar that was crimson. Now, the prisoner said to Sadao that, Sadao, I say, doctor, you're saving my life again. He said, not at all. It's not convenient to have you here any longer. Actually, the matter was spreading slowly and that was getting risky to keep him there, and that was the reason. Now, Sadao hesitated a great deal about giving him a flashlight, that should I give him a flashlight or not. Finally decided to give him the flashlight which he himself used while visiting his patients during night calls. So, but he just extended some instructions as well along with that flashlight. He told him that if you are if you are there and your food runs out, signal me 2 flashes when the sun drops over the horizon. And if you are well and still there, signal me once when the sun drops over the horizon. Don't signal me in the darkness. Don't signal me in the darkness. Otherwise, what? The light would be seen. Means that would be quite risky for both of them. That's what he was trying to say, that don't signal, because it would be seen and then the matter would come out and they could be punished and put into prison. And he said, you will find fresh fish easy to catch, but you must eat them raw because the fire would be seen. So that was the instruction given to the prisoner by Sadao. The question here is, what instructions did Sadao extend to the prisoner along with the flashlight? So, what instructions? So, these were the instructions. Okay, he agreed, and he gave him some black clothing as well to cover his head because his hair was yellow and that could be noticed, and again there could be problem. Okay, fine. Now he moved out, stepped out, and while crossing the garden, he used the flashlight once and then twice. But okay, it was in the house, that won't be suspected. After reaching the boat, he again used it once and then he was gone. And here now, Sadao is talking to the general. He said, what? The man escaped. Now actually what Sadao had been called to the palace for an emergency operation, and it was in midnight he had been called. And for 12 hours, Sadao had not been sure that the general would live because the gallbladder had been much involved. The condition was very serious. But later, what the condition improved, he demanded food and he was breathing deeply and all. So the condition improved. Now, Sadao had not been able to ask about the assassins. Of course, how could he ask? The general was about to die, and how could he that? Why did you send the assassins? How could he? As far as he knew, they never came. And after he was gone, the servants returned. Yumi washed the room and even burnt sulfur in that so that all smell of that prisoner would go away. Only the gardener was cross, and the reason was that he was left behind with his chrysanthemums. Chrysanthemums, kind of flowers, that creamish white flowers. So in his absence, nobody took care of the garden and the plants, so that's why he was a bit cross. And here now, the general, when general asked, you say the man escaped. So now Sadao is answering, yes, your excellency, he escaped. Now saying this, Sadao coughed, signaling that there is more, but he didn't wish to continue in that state because general's condition was not very good. But general had no idea, means he was not going to stop there, that general was not going to stop. He said, but didn't I promise you that I will kill that man for you? He said, you did, your excellency. Then general said, oh yes, well, I was suffering a great deal, and I couldn't think of anything else. In fact, I forgot my promise to you. So what happened actually, general was in a very bad condition, so he couldn't remember his promise. He forgot the promise about those assassins. And Sadao said, yes, I wondered, your excellency. And general, it's not dereliction of duty or lack of patriotism on my part. If the matter comes to light, you understand what. And Sadao, now dereliction, that is negligence. He was trying to say, I didn't neglect my duty, and it's not that I don't have patriotism or so. Sadao realized that general was now in his palm, in his fist. He could control the general now. And he said, yes, your excellency, I can swear to your loyalty and your zeal against the enemy. So just being quite faithful and loyal to the general. And general liked this. He said, you're a good man and you will be rewarded. But Sadao had his reward. Sadao already had his reward. And what was Sadao's reward? We must ask here. This is quite important. But Sadao had his reward. So what was Sadao's reward? That is what we need to know. So what happened actually, searching for that spot of black in the twilighted sea, means in that evening time and that light of moonlight and so that atmosphere. So when he searched, he didn't see anything, no prick of light. And the suggestion was the man was gone and saved. And so in turn, Sadao himself was saved. There would be no blame against him. There would be no charge against him. There would be nothing to prove against anything against him. And so in that way, there would be no charge of treason or sedition. He was all safe and secure. And it was more than any reward for Sadao. Yes, and now Sadao, standing in the veranda looking at the sea, he remembered those Americans. He knew all those people he knew in America. He remembered the Professor Harley, and his wife, who was very talkative. He thought of his professor of anatomy, who insisted on being kind with the knife, that one should really be kind towards the patients. And then he remembered his slatternly, that is untidy landlady. It was very hard for him to find a room there in America, because people were all prejudiced against Japanese. So knowing him, their superior, it was really very bad feeling for him. And finally, he was housed by his landlady, that untidy landlady. And though he wanted to be kind to her, good to her, because she had, in his last year, she had nursed him through influenza, she had taken care of him. But even in her kindness, she was no less repulsive to him. And he actually didn't like her at all. There was that repulsion and hatred even in her kindness. He felt so. And now he thought about that prisoner of war. What? That I wonder why I couldn't kill him. And the reason was perhaps humanity. That it was the same reason that the woman, that landlady, saved his life, because he was an enemy to her. Still, she saved his life. So similarly, perhaps he saved that prisoner's life. What humanity stands tall, humanity stands above all, and perhaps that was the reason that he saved that prisoner. So here, 8 questions have been given after your chapter, and I want you to do the 6 of these 8 questions. Means the last 2, 7th and 8th, you can skip, you can avoid, but the first 6 questions, they are important ones, good long answer type questions. Apart from those questions, the questions we discussed all through the chapter are very important, have been asked, can be asked. You must prepare them once at least. So that's all about the enemy. Thank you.